Are you tired of digging through the freezer to find a big bag of hops?
Shit, mother. Goddamn mother. Republicans. Undoubtedly, the best way to save money in brewing is to buy in bulk. However, some things that are sold in bulk are just sold with too much. And one of those examples is hops. So in Norway, hops, when you buy them in bulk, are sold in 5 kilogram bags. But as a home brewer, or even as a small time brewer, 5 kilograms is a bit too much for my batch. So I can either buy smaller bags and have the hops be more expensive, or I could use this pro tip in order to help me save money and also have fresh hops every single time. And also, this works for other ingredients as well. Now, step 1 is to buy bulk hops. I recommend buying as large as you can. However, just make sure that you have the freezer space because we are going to be packaging them into smaller bags. Now, the size of the final bag that you're gonna end up packaging in kind of depends on you. For me, I tend to use between 300 and 500 grams of hops of each type per batch. So what I end up doing is I package them in 1 kilo bags. However, for you it might be different, and as well, also maybe buying 5 kilos isn't an option, so buying something smaller can work out. But just like with everything, the more you can buy in bulk, the more money you'll save, and that especially goes for hops. But we have one problem with buying hops in bulk, and that is that they do not like air or heat. So when you buy a big bag like this, the problem becomes keeping it away from air, because how do you seal it? Like this? But air still gets into it, and air is the enemy of hops. So let's talk about it. First thing you'll need is a vacuum sealer. I have a link down below if you would like to check out the one that I'm using, but you could just buy a regular vacuum sealer from anywhere you see fit. Inside a vacuum sealer, if you're unfamiliar with what's in a vacuum sealer, it is a slot for where we pull vacuum, and then a sealing tape right here which actually puts heat and seals your bag. Next we need a roll of vacuum bags. And these vacuum bags come, as you can see, in one giant roll that has openings on both ends of the roll. So the first thing that we will do is we will close our end of the roll. Open up the vacuum sealer. For actually closing the end of the roll, you don't need to go into the vacuum, so I like to not make it look pretty. Make sure it clicks. Clicks the seal button, and now we will seal this bottom of the bag. Next, we cut the bag. Now, the length that you cut the bag will depend a bit on how much you want to package. I end up packaging 1 kilogram. I find the length of the vacuum sealer tends to work out perfectly for the size, and it's nicer to use a better pair of scissors here and just cut across. This will be where we put our hops. Next, we begin weighing out the hops. I like to weigh 1 kilo in each bag, so that way I have 5 bags from each 5 kilo bag. However, this depends a bit on you and how much fridge space you have, and as well as how much you use in every batch. However, what I will show you is that when you go to use these, you can actually reuse these sealing bags every single time. So it actually doesn't really matter so much how much you use as long as you use this sealing technique. Bam, 1 kilo. Also made a bit of a mess. Good job. Now we take our hops and we pour them into the open side of our vacuum seal bag. Now you'll see that the reason I picked a bag that length is it's important to leave extra room here or else it becomes hard to seal, and you will see why right now. So open up the vacuum sealer and then place your bag and make sure that the open end is inside this chamber right here, which seals. Then close, make sure it clicks, and then click the vacuum seal button. Watch it pull a vacuum. After it's done pulling a vacuum, you'll see that the seal light turns on, and now it's doing the thermal seal across here and melting that plastic and forming a nice sealed bag of hops. So now we have this bag, which is protected from air, and we will store it in a cold environment. Most manufacturers say if you store in a freezer, you could store up to 5 years. If you store in a refrigerator under 5 degrees C, you can store for approximately 3 years. But again, that storage time is based on having no oxygen touching and breaking down our lovely hop oils. Also, one thing is make sure you write what hops you have in here, the year, as well as I also like to write on each side a shorthand for what's in the bag. That way, no matter how these are oriented in my freezer, I can at least see what they are without having to pull them out. Probably easier to do this on the bag before you vacuum seal it, but I never remember. So now when you go to use these bags, as I mentioned before, we can actually keep reusing these bags every time we keep going to use hops, because as we use more, we will actually lose more space in the bag. And so when you make the cut, just make the cut right above your seal, use the amount of hops you need, and then reseal it after. And that's about it. So these hops should last you much longer. You're able to buy bulk hops, and you can also do this trick with yeast. But I won't talk about yeast so much because it depends how much yeast you use, and maybe buying yeast in bulk doesn't make sense for you if you don't use the same yeast too much times, or if you use starters. I think that's gonna do it for me today, and I appreciate you joining. If you have any questions regarding the packaging or how to use it with the yeast that I mentioned, just comment below and maybe I could do a video on that. If you would actually like to see me use these hops in action, feel free to click this link here for a video, as well as subscribe if you'd like to see more videos on starting a brewery and going from home brewer to an actual commercial brewer in my basement. So till then, see you around.